my first attempt at voice recording everyone, so be nice. This is Andy, Dave's brother. This is an addition to a log cabin that we have on the mill property right now. So we're putting on a like mother-in-law suite, which will be about 1,000 square feet off to the side of the log cabin. And this is the video, the first part of the excavation, kind of the trials and travails of it, and us battling it out basically as we go throughout the entire process. So I'm kind of going to try to narrate over it, and hopefully the audio won't be too bad because this is my first try at voiceover. But so the excavator operator is Scott. He's using what's called a grading bucket when he's doing this work right now, because soil directly around the house isn't too rocky, because some of this is graded out soil that's not virgin soil. It's not virgin clay. It's already been torn up by excavators in the past doing it. So you don't need a rock digging bucket with teeth. So if you look closely throughout this video, there's a knuckle joint. There's two knuckle joints on that bucket. The first knuckle joint is what we call a quick coupler in excavation. That means from inside the cab, he can move the boom arm out and then get the pins very close to that bucket, and then just using a thumb control inside the cab, he can couple and decouple off of that bucket and then change out to a rock digging bucket. And then below that joint for the quick coupler is it's a knuckle joint that it's basically a hinge, and it has a hydraulic ram on it. And if you look closely at the videos, you'll start to see him tilting, like right now. He's tilting that bucket, and that's for grading on a slope or just doing grading work in general. That way you can actually cut in a slope or a culvert. So what they're doing right now is you'll see Dave, if you look toward his feet, you'll see just a sliver of silver. That's a bundle of underground gray PVC conduit pipes. So it's a combination of the primary to the original cabin. It's a bundle of empty conduit that we're using as transfer conduit to pull power eventually to the back of the property. And then it's 3 or 4 pieces of conduit for media, for internet and cable. So we have those empty right now because I use wireless for the cable at the cabin, but in the future we're going to have to put in a line to get more capacity out of it. So what Scott's doing right now is he's clearing out some of the trash toward the foundation. And in New England, up here in Vermont, we have just a rocky clay soil. It's not loam and it's not sandy like it is down in the south and out west. And so you basically dig down from like an 18-inch black soil layer that's all dead organic matter. It's basically a topsoil. Then you get down to hard paying clay, and then that clay is mixed with rocks, small rocks, the size of an orange, all the way up to rocks that are bigger than a Volkswagen. They're huge, and when you get to rocks that big, you either have to use a hydraulic hammer on the end of an excavator arm, or you have to drill them, and then you have an expanding epoxy that you can use to split. It's pretty unusual up here to what they call shooting, and that's shooting an individual, blasting an individual boulder with explosives. It would really have to be in an exact part of a property where you're not going to upset other houses or be too close to utility lines or something like that. If it's common, if you're cutting in a road up like a steep hillside, and you encounter a boulder like that, if you can't physically push it over the edge of the hillside or down the hill, then they'll shoot it. They'll bring in a blasting crew. But blasting usually takes a lot of money, and it takes a lot of time, because the blasting crews are busy up here. There's not too many of them, and a lot of times they'll have to make you wait, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and that pushes the entire construction schedule back. But anyway, so Scott is being very, very careful to dig around the conduit. But you have to be very, very careful not to hit the line and pull it out of the box. And he's edging closely around the primary, getting as close as he can. And then what happens is Dave will have to finish it out with the shovel by hand. And So Scott's just edging around stuff, trying to figure out. We already have the layout lines. Dave and I shot everything with an optical transit and then laid out the lines on the ground. So Scott is digging to those lines. You can see he dug out an old foundation drain there. That's that white pipe that he just pulled out. And then Dave is trying to expose the conduit bundle to show Scott where the limits of the bundle are, because there's about 8 pipes in there. So Scott doesn't, by accident, hit one of the lower pipes as he's digging with the excavator. This excavation turned out to be a complete nightmare because of the site. The site is on, it's a flattened area, relatively flat for Vermont. And there's an upper pitch on the mountain that dumps into the high side of this property. So this property is taking the water, the rain load from the entire upper mountain face. So it's extremely wet. The property is ridiculously wet. So as soon as they dig down about maybe another 20 inches below this, we hit basically the surface water table. And you can see it right there. If you look closely now, there's water in that hole. So there's a kind of a demarcation line where once you go below that hole is going to fill with water, regardless of if it rains or not. It's just the hydrostatic pressure in the soil is going to push water up out of the ground and fill that. So what Scott is doing right now is he's digging a trench, because we had an idea of, because this foundation is going to take a few weeks to put in the footers, the foundation, the drains, the backfill, and then pour a slab. We knew that we were going to have to evacuate a lot of the water out of the hole during that month and a half that it's going to take to finish this. So what Scott's doing right now is digging an extended trench out, and the idea was at the time to extend the original footers from the house down that trench and basically let gravity dump all the water out by grading out the pipe, just below level, so that it carried water out and away from the house. What we would eventually find out is that, because we didn't take the time to shoot it with a laser level or a transit to check, is that the slope it doesn't fall away quick enough on the property. So we would have had to go 75 feet into the woods and cut out trees to get the proper grading to get it to dump. And it's just, it would have been way too much work. So what you're going to see is I left it in because I wanted to show everybody that construction is all about trying to fix errors on the fly, and then you're always going to have problems with whatever you do. So I just wanted to make it clear that not everything's perfect, and this is a day in the life on a real construction site. So Scott continues to dig this thing. They put in we put in 3 or 4 lengths of 4-inch PVC pipe, and then realized that the grade wasn't going to work. It was probably about 4 inches high, over 60 feet at the end of the pipe. You'll see Dave dropping it in, and we realized that the water won't drain out of it. So eventually, you'll see later on the video, we backfill that trench, and then what we do is we get an industrial strength submersible pump. It's basically like a sump pump for people in the United States on steroids. It's a 2 horsepower submersible pump. You just drop it in, and I don't know what the gallons per minute rate on it is, but it's meant to not only self-prime, so you don't have a problem with when the pump runs dry, it won't self-prime again, but it self-primes, and it doesn't overheat when it cavitates, which means you can basically leave it in the bottom of like a dugout hole like that, covered by gravel, just to shield it from silt, from it packing up solid with silt, so it still drains. And it'll basically cavitate and just barely suck out tiny bits of water continually for days and not overheat. So it's a really nice model pump. It kind of saved our bacon on this project. We still have it there. This dig was, I don't know, I think this was maybe 3 weeks ago. We're quite far along in the project. We already have part of the foundation, which you'll see in a video coming up here shortly. So Dave's in the hole now. Scott's digging. We have the laser transit set up off cam right now, and Scott's basically just debating with Dave what to do, because if you look carefully down there at the bottom of the hole, you'll see it looks like a very plain color. That's a puddle of all the water that's coming into the hole. And Scott's basically saying, look, we have to do some water mitigation in the hole because we can't just leave it, because what happens is there's a twofold problem when you have there's a multifold problem when you have the water in the hole. The one is that it causes the sides of the hole to collapse because they get soaked with water, they get maximum saturated, they turn to mud, and then the soil continually calves off the side of your hole, and what happens is you're constantly chasing the sidewall of the hole because it's collapsing into the base of the hole, which you graded to a certain height with your laser level. So as you continually dump more and more soil off the sidewall, you're scraping the bottom of the hole more and more, and you mess up your level. So what you want to do is you want to hit the bottom of the hole with the bucket on grade, and then just leave it there until you're ready to backfill, compact, and put in your footers. You don't want to continually chase the bottom of the hole. So as you can see, Scott switched out to the rock digging bucket. You can see it because it has the teeth on it. And this one has a hydraulic thumb on it too, you'll notice. And he uses it later on in the excavation when he hits some of the bigger boulders. He grabs them with the hydraulic thumb. But what he's doing is being just really, really careful around the conduit, as careful as he can. And he's not trying to dig underneath it right now. If you look carefully, what he's doing is he's breaking up the virgin clay, because when Dave goes in there to try to clear it out from underneath the conduit with a hand shovel, that clay, if it hasn't been broken up, it's almost like digging into conduit. You have to actually kick it, the shovel, to bite into it, and it's kind of a bear. So Scott's basically he's bailing more dirt out. This is about the time we figure out that we're gonna need a pump, and Dave's off screen right now. But Scott's basically, he's debating what he's going to do with the sidewall. He's starting to realize that it's going to be loose, it's going to collapse. And right here, our intrepid Captain Dave returns to try to get more clay out from underneath the conduit. So he's going to work it with the shovel here and try to loosen it all up. That's common in excavation. Whenever you're around the utilities, it's basically hand shovel only. So they know that no matter how good you are as an operator, it's just too dangerous to dig around primary. That goes for electrical as well as gas main work. So there's usually a limit where they want you to get close to it, whether it's like a foot away or 18 inches away, and then it has to be hand dug around that. So that's exactly what Dave is doing just for safety. And you can see how fast Scott can bale material, and then there's that dichotomy of how hard Dave has to work with the shovel just to get these tiny little bits of clay away from the conduit. And he's talking to me off camera right now and complaining and basically saying, listen, I have to do this. It's not a choice. It's just going to take forever. And it's just kind of one of those situations where you grin and bear it. So Scott, right over here, he's cleaning. One of the big things people don't realize about excavation is the good operators, they're constantly cleaning behind themselves and keeping the pad clean, keeping the site clean as they work. So that's what Scott's doing right now. He's already baled dirt up out of the hole, and he's made a pile right near the hole, because you can only swing the excavator so far. The radius of that arm will only allow you to swing maybe 25 feet away from the excavator. So what happens is you'll have to jump the pile. So he baled the dirt close to the hole, and then he moved off screen right now, and what he's doing is he's jumping that entire pile of spoil, all the dirt that came out of the hole, another 50 feet away from the hole. That way he can work along the right side of the hole in the picture and not see. Now he's back, and what he's doing is smoothing it out, trying to keep everything super clean That way, when he's tracking back and forth over the excavator, it's not rocking the excavator back and forth. And now he's getting closer to Dave, and he's trying to help Dave out. And basically, he's pawing at the side of the conduit. He's not touching the conduit, obviously, but he's pawing at the side of the dirt to try to loosen it up. And then you'll see Dave right here. He jumps into the hole with the transit stick, and that has a receiver on the top of it, a radio transmitter, or it's an optical transmitter, basically, and it receives the laser, and it gives you an audible beep. And basically, it's a slow process of Dave just continually walking around the hole and following Scott and spot checking as Scott goes around to make sure that the bottom of the hole is dead level all the way around, or level within a reasonable amount, say 3 or 4 inches across the entire 50 feet of the excavation. And we'll catch you on the next video, guys. Thanks for watching, and it'll get interesting here quickly, I promise.